virus edition of Roll with the Fox. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to start where we left off yesterday. We're dealing with turtle attacks. Okay, so now we move on to what we actually did yesterday. So as we talked about episode, if you don't know what I'm talking about, guys, you got to watch episode 19. What we talked about yesterday, my plan is, generally speaking, when I turtle somebody up, if I'm perpendicular to them, I attack their back. If I'm north-south, I start with north-south attacks. Usually guillotines or anacondas are sort of the right, the best way for me. And I think they're very effective because the transition from guillotine to anaconda is extremely efficient, very small movements on my part. So yesterday we kind of stopped at fortunately we ran out of time at sort of finishing with the arm and guillotine to anaconda. All right, so this time we're going to slide in, attack the anaconda again, and make it flops. And I'm trying to lock up the anaconda. All right, so usually I can use my leg, but sometimes the guy does a really good job keeping my leg away, and his arms start to flare out. What's important at this point is this is being taken away from you. So if you don't react, you know, right now, we're not quite 50-50 or neutral. Right now, I still have an advantage, but that's going to evaporate very quickly when the guy tries to turn into me. So before that happens, what I'm going to do is kind of reinforce his arm, and I'm going to hip heist. As I'm hip heisting, I'm sinking in and immediately sliding in to one of the arm locks we worked on before. All right, so we're going to look at it again. So I'm attacking from north-south. I'm trying to connect my hands. He's doing a good job, but his elbow, guys, again, the position of his elbow from a defensive standpoint, very important. We talked about that yesterday. If he's 90 degrees or more, I will switch to arm and guillotine like we did yesterday. And Enrique recognizes the danger. Guys, you can see how, first of all, how efficient the anaconda switch, but also how effective it is. So, but he managed to flare out his arm, and I just hip heist, and I slide into an arm lock. Okay? One more time. All right. So that's the sort of final transition from when I attack the turtle from north-south. Again, guys, when you attack, you have a plan, you have a submission in mind, or you have a move in mind, but sometimes your training partner or your opponent takes it away from you. When that happens, you got to have a backup plan. Ultimately, this goes guillotine, anaconda, top. So even if I lose the possibility of a submission, I'm back on top. Now I'm literally, so let's look at it one more time. This time I hip heist and I lose the arm. I don't have a follow-up submission. But again, guys, then you've done a good job in attacking that, where you basically went from attacking a submission and say hello to my little friend. Okay? So you've done a good job when that happens, when you transition one or two or three attacks into a superior position. All right. So the hip heist usually results. You can keep the guillotine. You could, there's a lot of different things you can do, but at this point you're pretty much mounted in a very strong position, so you can kind of choose your submissions. All right, guys. Do we have any questions?
On YouTube, GM Baseball says, "Good morning from California. I wake up early to see this. Thanks a bunch, you guys.
Appreciate it.
He says, what if you have short arms?
If you have short arms, okay. If that's the case, you can kind of connect, you know, the palm-to-palm game grip. So if I get here and I'm going to connect palm to palm, you can still finish this. I'm going to be very careful right now. So I can still finish this. All right, it's not quite as strong. It's not quite as strong as, you know, when you anchor on your bicep, but it still works. I would actually practice a lot more of that hip heist off that. So when you fold, so if you switch palm to palm, and you lay back, I would practice a lot more of this, and then you could attack, you know, Americanas. You could attack whatever is one of your favorite submissions from the top.
And Legacy Channel on YouTube says, bowing in from Northwoods, Wisconsin again. Good morning to all.
Hi.
Hope Enrique is okay and tell him no sleeping on the job.
Thank you. He's okay.
And on Facebook, Elotsa Pierre asked for that arm lock you did. Can he twist his arm and roll towards you as you're going for the finish?
Yes, it's a possibility, and we transition into triangle. So that's a possibility. Usually, if you do it, no, we're going to do the whole thing. Guys, actually, when he tried to jump into the position, so go in. I rarely start out from the position. And the reason for that is nobody ever gets into this position the way I just did. So I actually, when I show something, I show the whole sequence. Because maybe I'll get into it from a mount, maybe I'll get into it from top or cross side, but I really just pop into the position. Because every time you do it, you want to see the whole transition. You want to see the whole, how it evolves, how the position evolves. And also, it trains your brain and your body to make small adjustments as you're doing it, because every time it's going to be just a little bit different. So I never say never, but almost never just say, okay, here it is, and this is how we do it. No, we go through the whole, you know, there's other ways to get into it where if I'm on top of cross side. So it's the same arm lock. Yeah, it's the same arm lock. So I will get into it from here. But I will never just kind of plop into it and say, okay, what's your question? You want to always go through that sequence. So the sequence we're working today is so it's going to be very difficult. I can stop it. I can still stop it. Yes. When that happens, okay. When that happens, you have to make a quick judgment call. When you're there, I know if it's on or if it's off. If it's not quite on, don't wait for him to slide up. So if he slides up, when he comes into your triangle, his posture is going to be semi-broken, but not as broken as when he's just coming up straight. So let's do it from the other side now, so they can see it. I missed it. I'm sliding in. So if I'm sliding in and I feel this is not on. I feel pretty much this is on. But as I feel him, look how broken postured he's coming into the triangle. So I have all the time in the world to make adjustments and make it very tight. All right? So there is no, it's very difficult for him to defend it, even though he might be coming in with the right timing. I just got to make sure I strip that hand that's trying to grab my ankle. So we can look at it one more time. Let's see. Let's do it this way so that hopefully they can see that. So his right hand is going to my ankle. It's pretty easy to strip, you know, just the way his hand is positioned on my ankle. It's pretty easy to strip as he's coming up. Okay? Any other questions we have on this before we move on?
Yes, on YouTube, Jim McCormick says, Karl, I know that you know Shammy. He defends chokes very well from the Anaconda position.
I have experienced Shammy at Renzo's. He has a great neck. That's when that hip heist becomes extremely important. But go ahead, Mike, finish the question.
He says both men facing the ceiling, he brings his head towards the opposite armpit and prevents hip heist with the arms. Is there a follow-up?
So, you know what he's saying? You duplicate? I'd be inclined to squeeze. I know with Shammy, that may not necessarily work as well. I know with Enrique it will work, so we're not going to push the envelope, but Mike, who's sitting behind the camera, has a very similar neck to Shammy, and what I do is when I attack, if I'm in a position to cause a choke, I will attack with enough that he has to defend it. If he doesn't, it will just happen. It will just happen a little slower. So he has to defend, and then I try to use the defense against him, attacking instead of switching from the neck, switching to the arms. So, yeah, if that happens, what I try to do is control the far side arm and try to hip away. All right? I don't want him, you know, coming up on top of me, so I want to make sure, and then I'll just retract my. So, believe it or not, I don't think Enrique's neck is as strong as Shammy's, no offense. Mine is even weaker, guys, but good luck getting to it. But his defenses are very good. When he's caught, he makes micro movements, and we actually wind up here quite a bit. What I usually do is when I feel I'm losing that Anaconda choke, I'll block the other arm. Now the key is to recognize that's being taken away from you, and rather than try to persist with some sort of a submission, don't forget, at that point you're both on your backs. And I started it, I initiated, I have better grips, I have the chin strap grip, so I'm slightly better positioned, but it's important for me to act fairly quickly rather than sort of allowing him to start to arch and start to turn into me. So let's look at that sequence again. Again, guys, if you have somebody very good neck and good game, I know Shammy has a great game also, he's a very solid black belt, you recognize what's going on and combine attacks. Like I said, with Mike, what do I do to you when we go, and I literally will leave some of my biggest weapons on the shelf, and I go for your limbs instead.
Yeah, twist me up in so many different ways. Rubik's Cube Jiu-Jitsu.
Say it again?
Rubik's Cube Jiu-Jitsu.
Rubik's Cube Jiu-Jitsu, yeah. So I just kind of put him in a danger where he has to deal with the positions. I will threaten chokes. I will occasionally get it, but it's. I feel like the orangutans after this, like walking, with my knuckles on the floor. So I usually try to switch it into the limb attack, usually the arms. So let's look at it again. So I want to make sure I control the far side arm from him, because if I don't, he's gonna come up. So this allows me to keep him where he is. All right. Now, as soon as I want to retract, so I'll briefly stop him. I just need a brief stoppage here, and I'm just gonna turn and come up on top, and right away I'm switching into the arm lock. If I lose this, like for example, if Enrique, that's okay. I take a dominant position, and now I'm gonna try to come up with something different. So again, the objective, guys, is when you're attacking, your backup plan needs to have sort of either follow-up submission or a way to get back into a dominant position. Sometimes you may have to go back to somewhat neutral or kind of position where you came from. But if you keep momentum on your side, that alone is half a step ahead. So even if you get back to the same position that you started from after attacking with 1 or 2 combination or 3 combination attack, if you keep attacking, he's just escaping. All he's doing is just escaping. He's not going after you. That's hugely valuable. Jim, I hope that answers your question. I hope you guys are all well. Hi to everybody down there.
And on Facebook, Bobby Klecha asked,
Hi, Bobby.
while you're doing the arm bar, instead of turning in towards the triangle, can he run the other way?
Is this some sort of a vendetta against Enrique? Bobby. I didn't shut it down. I kind of let him move a little bit, but you could see that he was in pain the whole time. Like this was literally on the edge. Do we do one more time? Yes. It's very, if you do this well, it's very, very tight. And it's just, like I said, I'm not applying pressure, but I'm keeping it tight so his movement is minimized. But also, I'm trying to give him a chance to see which, is there a direction in which he's going. Guys, that brings me to a very important point, flow rolling. I know there's some guys that scoff at flow rolling. I'm a big believer, and the reason for that is, you know, the guys that don't flow roll, I know, you know, sometimes they're busy and they're like, oh, that's not, yeah, because they've trained 3 times a week. Goes ball to the wall, they go balls to the wall. It's an engineering term, by the way. Can anybody figure out what, you know, where that came from? All right, but they go hard and they can barely move for 2 days. Then they go back, they go hard, and they can barely move 2 days. Then they go back and they go hard and they can barely move for 2 days. That is their weekly training regimen. On those days that they feel good and they train hard, their game is going to be good, but it's going to be very physical because they feel great. Their body, like everything is repaired, everything is fixed. The problem is if you apply that philosophy against a guy that trains 5 days a week, and you know the reality is you're not going to be, if you train 5 days a week hard, you know, especially if you pass 30, 35, you might feel semi-broken. Even if you're way below 35, you might feel semi-broken. So you have to manage your training schedule. We talked about this a little bit before. You have to manage your training schedule in a way that I think allows you to have a good balance on a weekly basis of hard and just training for improvement, improving your technique, improving reading your opponent's body positioning, improving sort of feeling where his imbalance is, improving your technique. And to me, there's a huge sort of benefit to that. And I think you'll see that guys that try to train, if they can, I'm not, you know, like, listen, if you have family obligations, job, and all this other stuff, the best you could do is train 3 times a week. That's all you can do, and that's all you should do. But if you just say, well, you know, like, listen, I'm not a flow, I'm a big believer of it, and I believe, you know, I'm literally training 7 days a week, and you know, that's why I have to train in the water, because otherwise I'd probably break. But that's sort of what I believe in. So let's look at, you know, in flow roll is we get an opportunity, coming back to the point that I was trying to make 5 minutes ago, you get an opportunity to kind of lighten up on it and see where this could possibly go. And you get to experience, okay, if his arm was a little bit, he'd probably escape, but I have this follow-up. If I keep this tight, he can't really move, and I can slowly shut it down. If I move my hips the other way, he's gone. So clearly, don't ever move your hips the other way. So that's my sermon for the day. And right now, I don't have it too well. Can you push my foot down? I'm not saying there's no way, but if you hit it right, it's very difficult. Do we have other questions?
Let me see. Vincent MMA Life on YouTube asked, Coach, can you give some details on how you will open a guard from someone with very long legs? Like when you stand up and you can't get the guard open.
We did talk about it in one of the episodes, probably in the last 5 episodes. So let me point you to that episode, and then if it still does not answer your question, it's at the very end of the episode, I believe. I forget which one. It could be 15, 16, 17. If that does not answer your question, please ask again, okay? Guys, I'm happy to answer questions or clarifications on questions we covered before. But if you did not see that episode and you know, that might answer your question, I'm going to point you to that. It's something, I'll do it real quick because I want to move on to stay on the current. So it's basically, it's one of these things, all right? But it's a little bit more detail in that episode. All right, so why don't we move along? So we're going to go, what happens if the guy is hunkered down and I just can't get my grips, it's just too good. Guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn, it's up to you whichever way. So I decided to turn to my left, but my left hand stays the choking hand. And I'm just going to pivot. So understand, we talked about me attacking north-south. If I get the guy north-south. And if I'm perpendicular, I'll attack the back. But sometimes, and the reason is I rarely, if I sprawl on somebody, I rarely make, so let's do this real quick. I will rarely spin to the back right away because usually if the guy is savvy and I sprawl on him and I make the movement quickly, he will try to fold and put me in guard. So I sprawl in a recap and I circle to the back, and now, you know, I have to back off. Okay? So, but once you sort of turtle somebody up and they decide to make a stand at the turtle, basically like they really protect their neck, they really have a wide base where now you have time because they basically, all their efforts are sort of like have gone to just keep them very low, you know, very, very low stance and protected. So when that happens, so when I see this and I'm looking for the grips we were doing, so what I'll do is switch. When you switch your grips, even if he's sort of well positioned, he's kind of both hands by his neck, when you switch your grips, temporarily there's a brief disruption where he has to kind of rejigger his hands where they go and so forth. When that's happening, that allows you to connect the grip that you seek. So if I do this, guys, if I have a guy that's, posture up for a second. Guys, we have somebody that's really good at changing up the rhythm, right? So we went at it hard, he turtled up, and now he made a stance that he's gonna defend here until I make a mistake. So when I get my grips, I go. If you ever see me cornering my guys or my teammates from Renzo's at a tournament, especially when there's a lot of people seeking grips and so forth, once you get your grips, go. Don't sort of, you know, don't wait for, you know, all the sort of planets to line up. It's competition. It's, you know, it's rare like where you line up perfect grips and everything is just right. You made. If you get your grips, you may not always be able to get exactly what you want, but now he has to defend, and now you can go after him. And then that maybe with the first attack or his defense. So let's look at it again. So Enrique's blocking my grips to, you know, for the, so what I'll do is I'll switch and I snake my left hand in. All right? Guys, this is very important. My left hand should be in his mid-chest. You don't want to go by the shoulder, by his opposite shoulder. Okay? Because when you do, you've gone too deep and you will lose the ability to do one very, very important thing that we talk about all the time with the guillotine. Then I'm going to switch my legs, and I take his back. I'm curious to see if people will pick up what we're talking about. Super gentle today. Do we have any answers? Or questions, rather? Answers to my question, what is that important thing? And questions on anything else?
While we're waiting for the responses, H. Bruce Happy Jam on Facebook says, Fox, I have used your knee bump escape from knee on belly to knee bars since blue belt. Caught a few good black belts with it. Love that move. You're the man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
See, waiting for other responses for your question.
Let's do it again. So, Enrique's turtle lock is preventing me to get my sort of arm and guillotine or guillotine grips. What I'll do is, right now he's actually controlling my left wrist. Normally, I would like to bring my hand on top of his neck, but in this case, I can't. It's already trapped. So what I'll do is just switch. All right? So I'm not moving all I'm doing is just switching my body. And I immediately make a connection. All right? Again, I want my left hand in the middle of his chest, sternum, not all the way through. Right? This, you think you're deep, but you're not. When you roll, you don't have to roll, you can do it nice and slow. You will fall off. So if I go too deep, if I roll, this is what it's going to look like. All right? So I want my hand in the middle of his chest. So I'm making sure that he cannot go anywhere, and I'll make this switch.
Alad Sapir says shoulder roll.
I did.
No, that was answer to your question.
Oh, I thought you said.
Yeah.
I thought you said shoulder roll.
No.
No, not shoulder roll. Shoulder roll. Yes, a lot. That's correct. Shoulder forward, as always, guys. Very, very important factor.
And on Instagram, Acoustic Jaybird asked, are you using the seatbelt to take the back so I stay chest to back?
I don't focus so much on the seatbelt. I focus more on just switching. So especially when he's controlling my hand. It's not so much seatbelt as much as I'm actually, can you turn around? So it's not this. As I said, if Enrique does this to me, he will hold on. Hold on and take my back. But he's a little stronger than I am. I actually had a question, I think it was on YouTube yesterday. Why do I constantly gotta submit Enrique? I'll tell you why. Because when he and I train, he goes after me with a vengeance. All right? So he would probably go here. Me personally, I don't want my hand, I don't have as much control. If you're stronger, this might be a good way to go. I personally put it inside his legs so that way I can start to break his base if need be. So if I can get my connection, so if he starts to protect again, I'm going to switch back to north-south. All right? So again, I want to keep him once people make a defense, I want to keep them where they are until I can take advantage of that defense. We did the same thing with when we had the top of cross-side arm lock where the guy locked up. I want to keep him there until I set up my grips to take advantage of his defense. It's the same thing here. So I'll leave it up to you guys. You have to use your judgment. Like I said, seatbelt sometimes for Enrique, this works really well. For me, not so much, because if Enrique, actually, if I do this, if he rolls and I try to hold on, go ahead. See, I don't always tap Enrique. my arm gets extended and now I'm in danger. Okay? So if you can keep that elbow bent, it's a really good grip. For me, I bring it on the inside of the leg. To, again, keep him where he is, turtled up until I get my grips. Let's do it from this side. So he's grabbing my left hand. All right, if that's the case, sometimes this is very interesting because if you got a very, very mobile guy, notice where my left hand starts to go. Because sometimes you have guys that try to sit out the other way. Yeah. This is how I stop them. The key is to stop his left hand. So you got to be cognizant that may happen at any point in time. That is one of the most important things for you to stop. Because if I can't block his left hand, so everybody's focused on this hand, on this arm, but if you can't stop his left hand, he will wind up on top. So although I'm preparing for him to sort of, like, what is that, sit out, duck under, I'm not quite sure what's the term for this. But if he sits out and I cannot block his left hand, he will wind up on top. I'm usually pretty aware of it and can usually stop them and put them in a very bad position. If you want to see how that goes, there's a clip on our YouTube channel, which is Silver Fox BJJ, called Fluid BJJ, where I'm training with one of my brown belts at the time, Ricky DeLuca, and he used to wrestle, and we're just playing nice, but I wanted to guillotine him, and he just kept sitting out. He just kept putting himself into that. But that gives you a really better answer on how to stop this. But let's go back to, so he's blocking my left hand. He's actually holding on to it. So what I'll do is I will actually change, and my hand goes on the inside. As soon as I can make my grips, I will change my hips again, and now I will put him away. So, do we have any last minute questions? How much time we got, Mike?
Just about time.
Just about time.
One last question on YouTube. Caleb Throop asked if you're familiar with Britt Mickelson's
Yes.
turtle. He says, any thoughts on attacking a posture that makes securing the seatbelt grip difficult?
I don't go for the seatbelt. Oh, in the front? Yeah, I will just stay. Preet is a defensively an amazing sort of instructor. Has a great game. A lot of his concepts make a lot of sense. They're quite useful and work very, very well defensively. So what I'll do is if I have a guy that's not giving me anything, I stay on, but I will switch. I don't know if you can duplicate Preet. Nobody can duplicate Preet, but well, except Preet himself. But
I think I can.
a lot of time.
So I just won't let
You have to look at his DVDs then. All right. So like a lot. Sometimes we bring his
I'll
hips.
bring my butt up.
Yeah.
I don't want to let you get.
So what I'll do is, if that happens, I will try to switch. Keep breaking his posture. It's not going to be that easy, Preet's defenses are really good, but until when that happens, when you have somebody really, really good defensively, I stay on them. I want them to stay in that position, and then when I make them change, I want them to change where something opens up. Again, if you have somebody very, very, Preet is a great black belt. If you have somebody that is so good defensively, the opportunities will not be created in those positions. They'll be created in the transitions in between. And you should apply that philosophy to every aspect of your jiu-jitsu. But unfortunately, that kind of stuff comes in later on in your sort of jiu-jitsu career, so to speak. Hopefully never-ending career. Guys, I have a question for you. I'd be curious. We've done 20 episodes today. Happy 20th anniversary. I'd be curious for you guys to tell us which is your favorite episode and why. All right, I'm curious because I think that's also going to help us you know, try to steer things, techniques to what you guys are interested in the most. Guys, I really appreciate the private messages when you send me questions, and you know, Fox, you know, this has helped me tremendously. But the best way is to put it in the comments on the live feed. Even if you missed the live feed and you can only post after the live feed is over, that's fine. I still read it. I still pay attention to it. Because if you have relevant questions that other people are interested in, they're going to pile on. And guess what? If there's 6 people that want to cover a topic, we're gonna do that topic sooner rather than later. Okay, guys. Again, stay in tomorrow. Tomorrow we tune into episode 21, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Guys, stay safe, stay well, and take care of the ones that may need help more than you do.